I'm here with Kyler Sane from the band The Muckrakers. For lack of a better label, I guess they're a punk band here in kind of the New York tri-state area. I'm going to let them describe their music better than I can. If you would like to hear the music of The Muckrakers, I will have links down below. Let's start by jumping in the Wayback Machine and talk about the formation of the band. Had the Muckrakers is a three-person band. I think it's maybe always been a trio. You got to tell me. You got drummer, bass player, your guitars and vocals. How long ago was that? And how long did you keep the original lineup going? And how'd you do that? How'd you do that for so long? I know that's a really hard thing to do. I've been in a lot of bands myself, and I know like keeping the same people together for a long time can be a real challenge.
So I think the funny part about what you said is that the original lineup only lasted for maybe a few months
Okay.
because you're kind of hinting at some changes. But we actually went through a lot of changes for a lot of years. And when we first started, it happened about 13 years ago in 2011. And back then it was Shannon and I actually I'm actually getting ahead of myself because I wasn't even the first person in the band.
What?
Well, yeah, no, it's funny.
Okay.
And this is a kind of a technicality, certain bands started under a different name.
Gotcha.
So Muck actually originated as a band called Jail for Kids because it was like a school band for like a battle of the bands kind of situation
Okay.
at a
Wow.
school called JFK. So I guess they named it after the acronym. And back then it was Sean and Billy on guitar and drums, respectively. And I remember when I went to go see them play this Battle of the Bands, everything just started falling apart. And, uh, you know, they were playing some covers, and the girlfriend of the guitarist was just, I don't know, just heckling in the crowd. And the guitarist at the time, just kind of, I guess, was choking on the pressure or something, and then started cursing. And seeing as a high school, they closed the curtain, and then we never saw him again for years, really. And so like the next day or so, like, they would ask me to like hang out with them, and we jammed on some stuff, and I'm not very good at the time, but I guess I got assimilated into the group, and then we would start messing around with different names. And we went and kind of settled on the name, the Muckrakers, when we realized that there was another band, but they broke up a couple years earlier.
Yeah.
And but then we would end up breaking up that year, sort of. We kind of went in different ways because Shannon went away to college, and Billy and I didn't really spend too much time together for the rest after that summer had passed. And I would finish doing things with other people in high school, trying to do different kind of projects musically. And then the next year we would come back together with a different drummer and a different band that Shannon was with, and we kind of came back together um, under a different name called Untitled Prong Project because we didn't know this band was going to be real.
Wait.
It
The
was like,
name of the band was Untitled Punk Project.
yeah, that we actually made a new,
That's very punk.
yeah. So and this was the year we made our music festival. We didn't know it was going to be a music festival.
Got
We were
you.
just like, we don't know. We're going to have a show. We don't know how to get on a show, so we're just going to make a show at the house. So we asked the other band to play with us. And then we also realized there was a rapper in that group. So then we ended up having three acts between five people, and a bunch of people showed up, and we had a potluck at the house. But then we broke up again. And then we came back the next year. By this point, I guess Shannon was coming back and staying back from high school. And had me off stock happen again. And then basically we just started playing shows finally. I ended up doing some stuff in college. I ended up getting in another band I was going to stay in Reluctant for a couple of years. But as far as Muck is concerned, we ended up going uh play a couple shows with Jason, who was with us for the first Miano stock, and then the second. He played another show. He went away to Berkeley, and then that was kind of that. Then we ended up having a fan of my band, Relic Demorum, jumping on drums, and he played, I think, like a 10 or 11 shows he played. And then we went away to Massachusetts and we had a one-off drummer friend. He played about all the bands with us, and that was kind of that. We came back, we realized we didn't have the other drummer. So then we ended up getting another drummer who was actually a teacher of Shannon upstate. So now all of a sudden, now we're going upstate and we're like using the keys to get in the classrooms and having band practices in the classrooms. And it was actually Dana, who Dana, the drummer from upstate, she wanted to do the Moondance cover we have on our first album.
Okay.
So that was a nice little thing that kind of left an impression on our history as a band because a lot of people really like that cover. Also, kind of think I didn't mention the names. Well, we had Nick before, and then when we were in Massachusetts, we had Dan who came on drums, and then after Dana, we had Mike from the Schwam. We did our first album with them, and then at some point in the process, we actually met John at a it was like this high school reunion or something kind of show down the street from where Shannon lives. We didn't
Okay.
realize it. And then
And now what
mind
year
you,
is
this
that John came
this
into
is
the
like 4 years
picture?
later.
Okay. So 4
So
years of like kind of a revolving drummer situation. The
mm-hmm.
core of the band being you and Shannon, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks for
sorry. This
clearing
is
that up. I never knew this lore behind the Muckrakers, so this is
yeah.
interesting.
So, yeah, sorry. It's kind of confusing, which is why I don't
Nice.
bring it up very
It's good. You
much.
know what? We got it on record now, and you if anyone wants to know, you can point to it. You'd be like,
Yeah.
it's on the Mr.
Um,
Hargrave channel. It's been documented.
so yeah. So basically we were at the show and we actually ended up seeing Sean from the very first show. And he was like, we should make the band again. Obviously, we already had the band going. That was the kind of like funny note, but I don't think we actually met him and I. I just overheard Shannon and him talking about that. And then I ended up seeing John. I met him because ended up, he was dating someone that Shannon was dating in a prior year. And she was just like, you should ask John to play drums for you because he's really good. And I was like, okay. This was like after 9 months of recording and having no luck finding anyone. Like a really tough time
Yeah, yeah.
compared to like the earlier, like, I didn't even care. Like I was just gonna go with anyone and we're just gonna figure it out. But I just went up to him and was like, you want to try out for my band? He's like, okay. And that was kind of it. And then I gave him Self-Loathing and Moondance. We went to his house, he auditioned, and he was like, just knocked it out of the park. And that was crazy. And then there was just a whole 9 year span of
Yeah.
just doing most of our history as a band, going on 10 years, really. But, we put out we put out an album, two EPs together. We toured most of the country, a little bit of Canada. We've had me and Stock go on 11 years. Now we're going on 12. Done a lot of stuff with John. And we announced this year that he was departing the band. And just recently, I think we played our last show with John in February. And I think the next month or so, we announced that Malik, our newest drummer, and hopefully for our forever drummer, uh, I kind of lost count, but I think we're at 9 drummers. But
Okay.
he joined the band, and what's crazy is that John was playing drums for like 20 years, I guess, by this point. Definitely is double digits, but Malik was playing drums maybe like 5 years, and then he stopped playing drums for 5 years, and then he picked it up again for the audition, and then he picked the hardest songs possible to show off for the audition, and you know, it was just one of those auditions where I just felt like we could be just kind of have fun with it and not play super like rigid, like we're trying to like be I don't know how to put it. It just felt fun, like listening back to it. And so yeah, that's where we've been now. We've been with him for at the end of 3 months because we
Okay.
had 2 months to prepare for our first show. We're going on to play our second show with him at the end of this week.
All right, that is awesome. Thank you for that history lesson on the lineup changes in the Muckrakers. Now, the last EP you put out was Quarter Life Crisis, and that was in 2021. Like I said, there's a
Hmm.
link down below where you can listen to the whole thing. You can pick up a digital copy for like $5. I highly recommend it. It's a great album. How do the songs on that album hold up for you today? Like 3, 4 years later, I guess. Do you still perform them live?
Yeah.
Okay.
So funny thing again with like Malik is that we actually didn't play a certain song on that album for a long time.
Okay.
So when it comes to us playing songs, and I don't know if this will ever change, but we will always write a song and then play it live and kind of work on it while we're playing it up until the point we actually get it into the studio. So we did play songs like actually every single song on that EP a lot up until the point we recorded them. So years before lockdown had happened, really.
Yeah.
And we did release it in 2021, but we recorded it in 2019 with the intention of recording it, releasing it, I mean, in mid 2020, and actually this month. So basically, what I'm trying to get at is that once we had our release show at the end of 2021, we played Without You once, and then we never played it again until the beginning of this month,
Well, that's
which
good
is kind
news
of
for
crazy.
fans of the song. Now when
Well,
they go
yeah.
see them, they might hear it.
Well, yeah, it's one of those songs that I felt like when I was in the studio, I definitely had my share of unsure feelings about like whether I thought it was a good song,
Okay,
but
yeah,
at the same time, I was like, uh, I think I'm too close to this stuff,
absolutely.
the music sometimes, like anyone would probably be, that they don't realize how anything could sound to anyone else.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
common thing. I've done some music in my days, and there's been a few songs where I've been like, I just don't know. I just don't know.
yeah. And that song specific, and I'll have comments about other things on the album, but when I wrote songs like Dance Song, which was like a Frankenstein to put together, I was like, how do I really like one up myself and like really subvert people's expectations of what the band could be and define? And so I was just like, well, I've been writing a lot of these tap slide melodies on the guitar, but I never really brought that to the band. And some of the stuff really has been kind of quoted to sound like Nintendo sounding music. So I was just like, let's write a completely clean tap slide song where we're always known for really harsh, distorted music that's fast. And this ended up being like a ballad with sort of rap ish lyrics. So that was, it was interesting. And then now it's back in our repertoire live. But yeah, now it's, it seems like those songs are coming back, some of them. And our EP before that, none of those songs have ever left since they've been on there. The album's off is like, I wouldn't say like our peak, but like those are songs that just have always stayed. But it's also with the shortest EP, so it's hard to really like, you know, weed them out if like there's so little there to begin with. There's only two and a half songs,
Yeah, yeah.
but they're like such high energy ones too. But I also do feel like I want to bring back songs from like Dirty Water, but maybe more in a medley sense because that album's also getting close to 10 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Give it another year or two. So,
Yeah, it's interesting because yeah, when I was introducing you there, I was having a problem kind of describing what you sound like. It kind of like just saying a punk rock band might be a little. It feels dismissive. Like it's difficult because you have the spirit of punk rock, but
mm,
this is a very talented band. You're a very talented guitar player. I think you've received a fair share of praise for your guitar work over the years, and the rhythm section is very competent as well. I would say, even more so than that. I'm trying not to just heap the praise on in buckets or anything, but there's a lot of musical talent here. So if you're thinking punk rock, oh, these guys can play three chords and scream a lot, no. There's a lot of songwriting. There's layered harmonies. How do you describe your music? Like what is because I have heard you throw out everything because your influences are so varied, right?
well, yeah. As far as describing our music, I think the easiest way to explain it to someone who likes music, more of a music player, would
Yeah,
be, I guess, prog punk because it's not like prog rock or like prog metal where
yeah,
like you kind of have more of an idea. I think prog punk kind of allows you to kind of be like, what is that? And then if you kind of go in there being like, oh, it's more than that or
yeah.
whatever. I wouldn't say super punk because I know super also means more than, but I don't know. So there's that. But like
I
if
think
you
I think
listen to like
that's a good kind of extra word to throw on that punk label to help people kind of
yeah,
prepare themselves for it.
yeah, because to a lot of people for whenever we would go on tours, like we were always like we always fit in with metal bands, but like we're always like
Yeah.
more punk to them. But then with the punk people, we're always more metal to them. And then whenever we play to literally anyone else, they just like us and they don't really think about it. So, because if you listen to our first album, there are songs on there that are just really difficult to put your finger on. Uh, but like I always think of songs like "In Vain," which is kind of like a funky death rock song. I always think of if you think of like Scooby Doo, kind of those vibes. There some of that kind of running bass line stuff like that. I really liked when we
See,
were first writing that
it's
first
when you
album.
do that you confuse people. You just start throwing out. It sounds like Nintendo music or Scooby Doo.
Yeah,
but
well,
it's
there's
great, and I think you hit upon the thing that I've always noticed that you guys are always playing with such different bands. You're just all over the
yeah.
place. Like I see metal bands and punk bands, and it like never seems out of place. It's like, well, yeah, that makes
Mm,
sense. That makes sense. I'm like, what
I th
music do they play? I'm like, they fit in with everybody.
I think one of the more there's been a couple of funny shows that we played. Like I think when we played with Cold last
Yeah,
year was kind of funny in a good way because I love Cold and they
I
were
do
one of those
too.
bands that I went into it being like a fan already for a
Yeah.
couple of years because I got into them in 2019. So
Hmm.
now we're like 3, 4 years later and a lot of their set was acoustic songs, versions of their songs. And I was just like,
Wild.
wow, we are not like that at all. But we still fit on the bill. And,
Absolutely.
I I don't know. We were still welcomed. And when we got to meet Scooter and Lindsay and everything, they were just like, you guys are awesome. Hugs, whatever. And, I remember when John was doing the sound check that night, their drummer was right behind them, and he was just like, you're amazing. It's just like that's one of those things, when we played with the Queers a couple of different times, and I just saw them recently, I mean, obviously they're more like Ramones
Oh yeah.
meets the Beach Boys, but like somehow people think we wouldn't even fit with them. But like I still am shocked that they've asked us to go on tour with them. So there's that. I'm always like stoked about stuff like that. And when we play with Nita Strauss, I was really happy about that. I think that was one of the more metal shows we played besides when we played with Master, which was like one of the more extreme death metal shows we played. But that was like such a left field show for us to be on. But I was happy to be on it. Um, but yeah, we always play with so many different bands. We've even played with people that don't even necessarily play music. Like we play with noise bands, but we've also played with noise artists. You know, people we played shows where we were the only band and they were just people doing noise, like taking a drill and just drilling into wood or just
Sure.
like vacuuming into a mic. Like we've just done so many things.
You seem to have the mentality of not saying no, perhaps. I've adopted that myself, and it's gotten me into some very interesting situations. When people approach me, I just go, yeah. And then I work it out later, if I'm actually going to do it or whatnot. But my default is now yes. And I guess that's how you end up on stage with someone, hacks on something into a microphone.
Yeah, I mean, it never realize when you're getting an offer how fun a thing can be
Yeah,
just based off a text.
absolutely.
So you might as well just do it because sometimes something that seems fun could be a nightmare. You never know. I don't know.
Something that seems like
So
it might be a nightmare might be really fun. Who knows?
exactly.
We only get one life, so yeah, check it out. All right, getting back to the songs on the album, I got to ask
Hmm.
you about the album, the song that carries the title of the album, "Quarter Life Crisis." The song itself, quite
Hmm.
a statement to make at a young age. It's a great track. Do you still find yourself, filled with so much angst? Does that song still resonate with you? Is it as true today as it was then?
So I definitely found something very funny about this entire EP. So I didn't write that song.
Okay,
You actually find a pattern that we typically write the songs we sing, though it's not always been that case. But I'm going to stay on topic. But despite that, I think we all would end up living the album as we would release it in the next few years because
sure.
I think our life was pretty chaotic when we were writing those songs, but I don't think we truly understood
Yeah,
what the years to come were going to be like.
right.
So I think, we ended up going through lockdown and then we ended up having all the interesting adventures of, the streaming on my end or all the different jobs or all the other things that aren't really my place to share, but like everyone had their own quarter life crisis, if you would like to say. And I think those things got highlighted a lot more aggressively after we put it out. And it's just funny because we did have a lot of different music videos for this
Yeah,
release, and we staggered them, I guess, every month. And I felt each one more as that time was happening. And there is a story to those music videos too. And if you ever watch it, it's kind of like this guy's kind of doesn't got his life together, and there's a clown, and he's kind of like, I guess, the temptation of doing drugs or really just not really getting it together, kind of lingering around him. And you kind of just watch as he sits in it and then eventually conquers it and then go gets a job at a bank and cleans up his apartment. I think the entire last music video is just him cleaning, and it's the longest song on the EP, and it's kind of ridiculous, but we did what we could to make four music videos get shot in a day or two. So it was just funny when it actually comes into practice and everything. But yeah, it was definitely something that mirrored life pretty hard because back then when we shot those music videos, I'm kind of going in circles, but when we shot those music videos, when we recorded those things, I think life was a lot more certain. There's
yeah,
a lot more maybe young kid optimism
sure, sure.
that didn't get robbed just yet. So,
The songs
like,
were kind of prophetic. You didn't know how how
how much
chaotic
so?
things would be.
Yeah, but yeah,
Art imitated reality before reality happened.
yeah. There's a lot of layers that's an onion of an album, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, yeah, I really enjoyed listening to it today. I thought it was pretty great. I'd listened to it before, but it's always fun to go back and hear it again. If you don't mind getting into it, I think it's notable to your music and certainly to your story that you've been transitioning kind of on and off for a few years now. Can you tell us, just talk to us a bit about your journey through that and the twists and turns that you've gone through over the last few years on that?
Imagine I was just like, no. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, no, not into it, which is
no.
absolutely fair.
No, I don't. So so basically, let's see. I think when I was in a relationship a long time ago, pretty much like a decade ago, I guess the idea of transitioning was kind of brought on my radar, and that kind of made me think about a lot of different things that I guess made me question stuff about myself. And it's kind of a very long-winded thought process to bring up, but it brought me to a point where I ended up looking to see what I could do, really. And I didn't really understand entirely the gravity of what an experience transitioning would be like,
Yeah,
but I was young. I think I was like 20 really when I tried to start doing that. Um, but basically, I ended up going to a place in the city with someone who had brought this to my attention of where to go. And I went through a series of like tests to, I guess, be mentally evaluated and just kind of figure out if I was in the right place to be starting this stuff, to understand
yeah,
what it would be like to take these kind of medications. This is also before this was really in the news
yeah.
or like a popular topic to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
So this was extra interesting to kind of dive into for me, where I was just like, I didn't post about it, you know? It was
Yeah,
just something I decided to go and do, which I think had lended a little bit of validity as to why I was probably doing it, because not to downplay things that I do now, but I feel like there's so much more doing things for like just to be like I'm doing it,
sure.
nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's
Not
per
even specifically just for transitioning, but like I'm way more public about everything in my life nowadays. But that was a very I kind of just did it. No one knew what I was doing, really. No one
okay.
understood it, that's for sure. So I started going out there into the city. Eventually, like 8 months later, I got onto hormones, and I started with a testosterone blocker, and that really didn't do a whole lot in terms of like negative effects, but this would come back later on in life. But this is a dehydrate no, a what's it called? What am I saying? It dehydrates you,
Okay,
but it's diuretic. This medication I'm
gotcha.
hinting at, it's a spiralactone, which is what I started off with. And I was on that for give or take 6 to 8 months. And what I did notice is that like I was starting to feel more like I guess more feminine,
Okay,
and like facial hair would just grow in like 3 days later, opposed to like during the course of the day, which was interesting.
yeah,
And I think back then my process was just a lot more smooth had I continued going with it. Eventually I did put in for taking estrogen. And I think I only stayed on it for like a month or two, but I was always on pills. And sort of fun, sort of sad fact, but like I actually only started taking medication again because of transitioning. I actually had a suicide attempt that was like pill related, that was a couple years earlier, where I was just like, I swore off taking any sort of medication
Yeah.
because I just felt like I had a gag reflex. Like I was convinced I wasn't going to be able to take it, but I was like, I feel like I want to do this so much that I'll start doing this. Um, but yeah, so basically, I was on like 5 pills a day at a certain point. But when a relationship I was in hit a certain point where I was like, I don't want us to see each other anymore. And I also left the job. There's just like a certain instability that I was going through that I was just like, as simple as that, I was just like, I don't think I'm going to be able to take these pills. So then I was just like, I called the place and I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna do this. I don't know, maybe later. And they're like,
Yeah.
what? Okay.
We had a whole process for you to go through here. Because it's not
Yeah,
a
I was
simple
just
thing. You it's I don't know. Some people probably think, this is a easy, like a just a
well,
decision you make one day, but you have to go through a lot of steps. You cannot go on
definitely.
this treatment without a lot of prerequisite work that you have to do. And you did all
Yeah.
that, and they
Mm-hmm.
verified this is a
There.
legitimate thing. This is something Kyler wants to do. We are going to
Mm-hmm.
help them do it. So yeah, it's going to kind of throw them a little bit. We're like, I decide not.
Well, there was more that I completely glossed over, I'm
Sure.
realizing. So when I was going through it, there was always this looming thought
Yeah.
whether I would ever go all in, if
Sure.
I would ever get surgeries
Yeah.
or whatever. And there was just this apprehension of like, who would feel okay doing that, you know? I mean, some people want to do that so aggressively and will do it. And uh to to the other end, it can be really frightening.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
it really made me lock up, I guess. And some of those thoughts just made me a little bit freaked out, I guess, at the time, and not unsure of how I felt, but like I didn't really know what to do with that. And I actually did interview over 10 different people who were going through transitioning
Mhm.
during this period of time to just kind of get their experience. And some people were like, they had a pretty calm experience about stuff. And then there were other people that were like pretty extreme. Like I talked to people that were like, at one point like on BuzzFeed and like activists that were like pretty extremely problematic.
Yeah.
And like they made it like I got to hear those scary sides where like everyone is out to get me kind of stuff. And I was like, that's kind of I don't want to believe that that is how I'm going to feel.
Yeah.
But then I also got to hear the more like the Zen side of things where I was just like, you know, do what you feel is right.
Yeah.
And there was one conversation I had with someone um, where she was basically just like, um, if you don't feel like you have to rip off whatever you got right now,
Sure. Sure.
and you can be intimate with whoever you're with, then you're probably doing a lot better than everyone else around you
There you go.
that
Yeah.
is in that situation. And um, to another end, I felt like, uh, I have goals. I feel like I don't necessarily lack uh self-esteem or like I don't think that I look bad or anything. I think that is just a fact that I don't feel like a guy, you
Yeah.
know? And that's something that I wanted to do something with,
Sure.
but that's just an unclear thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ultimately, that story would kind of end in the end of 2015, beginning of 2016. And I guess people would hear about it over the next couple years, and I would hear from people that would like influence them starting to do
Yeah.
whatever their journey was, and that is always nice to hear or interesting and so on and so forth. But it kind of in its own way kind of made me feel like why am I not doing that after a certain
Yeah, why
point?
did I stop, right?
It was, it was kind of a interesting, weird thing that I influenced people to do it, and then it influenced me to kind of go back to it many years later.
Yeah,
Because at the end of 2022, I ended up seeing Demi Lovato.
yep,
This is kind of tying into what I was talking about earlier with the bands I played with.
yeah,
But I ended up seeing Demi Lovato with Nia Strauss in Connecticut, and I was just at a show where it was mostly girls, and she's playing all of their songs that are like the newer stuff that's already made to be on the heavier metal rock side, but then the older pop stuff, but made to be punk or rock or metal. And I was just like, everyone's just so into it. And then I don't even understand how that went to another side of our brains, but Allie and I left that conversation, my fiance, left that concert just being like, I think I want to transition again. And I was just like, somehow that all just kind of inspired me in a way where I was just like, I don't feel like I need to like not do something for some arbitrary reason. Like I could do whatever I want to do. And while I can't really explain it super well, probably um immediately, because I'm kind of so distant from that thought right now, that is kind of where that all came from. And so I ended up starting the process of doing it again. And while I ended up going seeing a doctor, um, I ended up taking quite what I thought was going to take a lot shorter of a process, because the doctors were just like, "Yeah, you already went through this. We'll get you on it very quickly." It still took a very long span of months to get back on it.
okay.
And this time it was not a pleasant experience,
Oh,
but I don't think it was due to one specific like thing.
okay.
Um, so time sensitive wise, like it was just like right around the time that like I found out that my drummer was gonna leave the band. I
Mm,
ended up going to a job that was like was ending up being one of the worst jobs I ended up going into. And basically the hormones that I ended up taking, they wanted to put me on the highest dosage of both the blockers and estrogen right out of
oh,
the gate. And
wow.
so my brain just was not working like at all. Like there was a lot of issues, but I think one of the stories that I always bring up is that I was going to a thrift store, and basically I'm talking about like the clothes and whether we like it. And my fiance, was asking me if I like any of these clothes. And I was just like, my brain is not able to process what I would look like in any of these clothes. It's not
Sure.
like I don't feel like I would look good in any of these clothes. It's more that I don't feel like I have enough brain cells anymore. Like it was such a difficult thing to not be able to process. And on top of that, you know, so there's like brain fog and all these other stuff. Like I'm going into this new job
Yeah.
with like this worry of like everything's more complicated. I'm trying to introduce myself, being like, I'm Kyler. I'm from this band. I do these things. And I'm like pulling these thoughts out of my brain, being like, I don't even know who I am anymore,
Wow.
because I have to dig so deep. It's like I feel like I'm talking about another person.
Wow.
And I was just always really pretty, like, I guess angry, or every feeling was just much more intensified.
Okay.
And again, I mentioned that it was like a very extreme diet, what was it? Not diuretic or something. So like you always have to like go to the bathroom or
Got
something.
yeah.
But like at the job I was at, you could never do
Oh my
anything.
God. This
So
is
like
horrible timing.
I'm always stuck not being able to hydrate or do
Oh
anything.
God.
I'm always feeling crazy. I worked in a pharmacy, so people are
Oh
always
no.
going at me.
Yeah,
And
yeah. You're in front of the public.
th
That's gonna be rough.
as you imagine all these things coming together,
Yeah,
it's just crazy. And then there's just all this paranoia that's manifesting. And I think the thing that actually um went and made me have to make a decision was that I lost my ability to scream because
wow.
I became so dehydrated that I couldn't scream or do anything musically with my vocals anymore like
Oh
that.
wow.
And I went and I saw Lamb of God and I was like, I'm so like upset all the time and I can't even do this anymore. Like I go and then it just like completely cuts off. And I'm seeing him do this and I'm like so it's so obvious how important that is to them as a band and still so much to myself that I was like, I need to like regain my sanity. So
Yeah, yeah.
it was like the night late, like I think the night after where I was just like I had to remove myself from being on hormones privately. No one really knows, though this is on a recorded thing. But I just felt like it was one of those things where I couldn't um I couldn't talk about it very much because what I did mention, I did play with Nia Strauss. I did get inspired to go transition because the whole Demi Lovato show, but I got so worked up in a positive way
Yeah.
because when I saw Nita Strauss, I told her about that thing that happened that I was inspired, and then she told Demi Lovato,
Oh.
and then she reached out in such a way that I was like, oh my God, which is awesome. But then when I'm going through all these hormones, I'm like, I feel like all this pressure of like,
Yeah, you've done it so
now if I
publicly.
go,
Yeah.
yeah, like, so if I go back on this, now I'm going to feel like I didn't do what I said I did, I don't deserve that or whatever, like all these crazy thoughts,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that was what I was living with in my head.
I really appreciate you sharing the story with people because I can't imagine it's not uncommon. Like it's really difficult to do that for so many reasons. And how are you feeling today? Like how is Kyler today? How are you comfortable?
Well, I think ever since that show, it's been a few months maybe since I've been off of those. And I didn't say this earlier, but I do plan to be on it again. But
Okay,
the thing is, I've talked to a doctor to like go in a different direction,
that's good.
not take certain medications, and they said to take it slower and
Yeah,
kind of at my
it's
own
very
pace.
aggressive. It sounds. Yeah,
It seemed like I was on the wrong uh path with that.
yeah,
Uh I could have slowed down at any point it seemed. But in terms of my own state right now, I feel like I've been going through a lot of growth that I've had to endure at times, and I think I'm in a better place, as
that's good.
we were talking about um before the recording, it's been an interesting journey of a couple of years, the saga of my job hunting that a lot of people know about. I've had like 18 jobs since I lost a long-term job, and it's a topic that I've grown tired of talking about, but I did find a job that I feel pretty good at right now, and I do feel like that's given me peace of mind, and I do feel like especially with having a new lineup um secured and everything, having a new job that I don't have to worry about. Um, I feel like that has been giving me peace of mind. And, I think in about 2 weeks or so, I'll be sober mentally uh, for like 9 months,
Nice.
not smoking like stuff. So that'll be another thing. And there was also
Congratulations.
a saga of trying to do all these like mental health medications, and
Yeah.
that wasn't working out. So the 2020s have been an interesting
Whew.
time, but I think my mind has been mostly cleared up as of this period of time.
Awesome, awesome. Wow, that is yeah, yeah, I've had similar experiences myself with like depression medications and sometimes it's just like the process of doing it helps you feel better about where you end up after you kind of try it and maybe it's not for you but you find out things about yourself and I know that for me it didn't work out. Depression medications didn't mesh well with me, but after I went through it, um, knowing that about myself then made it, I don't know, maybe life a little easier to handle, getting through to the other side of it. What are your plans for the rest of the year? What's going on with Kyler this year? I'm excited about it. You seem to have you got yourself in a good spot now. You seem to be doing better, and I'm excited to know what you're going to be up to in 2024. We're about halfway through the thing.
Hmm.
How are we gonna send off 2024 with a bang?
Well, I mean, I can't say I know everything that will happen, but I do know that there are a couple of things that are already happening. We do have Road to Stock, which is a
Yeah.
show series that we started in 2018. That's going to be happening uh, on, I guess, in 5 days from recording this, so this Saturday, which is kind of like a fundraiser for our music festival, which will also be our first Long Island show, which is my hometown now.
Oh,
Apparently,
nice.
our band is no longer a Long Island band, and now it's more of a city band. But now it's going to be our first Long Island show with the new lineup, and also a fundraiser for stock. But then we're also playing Punk Island for the first time on June 8th. Is going to be pretty crazy. We've actually been submitting to play uh that festival for possibly a decade now,
Oh, wow.
and it's a long time coming. Excited to make it happen, and can't say any details that aren't already announced, but we're going to be playing on one of the many stages with, I think, I don't actually know how many bands, a lot of bands, and a lot of bands that I don't know. So I'm excited to meet a lot of new people on that day and get to work with people that I haven't gotten to work with. So that's just an exciting thing, because we do run a music festival, which is another topic of what'll be happening. So it's also just exciting to be able to play a festival that isn't our music festival
Yeah.
because that isn't something that we get to do as often as it is the other way around, which is something that is a goal for the future, really, because we have been really just curating one of the bigger uh, festival kind of events
Yeah.
on the island for a long time now,
It's been
even though
just
it did
getting
start.
it's been getting like bigger and bigger every year. It seems like you try to top yourself every year, right?
We try to. I do think that it's one of those things that it happens gradually. It's not like one of those things where, 1 year there's like 10 people and then the next year there's like 10,000 people,
Sure, sure.
But, when we first started, like in the story of our beginnings, there was like maybe 40 people. I
Yeah.
don't even know how many actually there were, but that
And
was like for the first 5 years.
we're talking about Muno stock.
Yeah,
Yep.
Stock was it started off as a house show and then we brought it off to the Broadway Mall, which is actually where I met two of my uh bandmates. I met Shannon there of Muck, and then I ended up meeting Aaron of Reluctant Mortem there. Uh, I think I met Shannon right outside of Zales, which is not there anymore, and then I met Aaron outside of it might have been it might have been a smoothie place, but it either might have been that or a pretzel place. But I don't think either of those are there anymore because it's been a decade. But either way, basically, it was crazy back in 2017 that we ended up running a music festival at a place that we were being mall rats at all the time and getting kicked out of, which was kind of crazy because I just remember a casual moment of being like, okay, where's the security? I need to bring them somewhere to show them what we're doing with them. I'm their boss, which was just funny to me. Um, so yeah, we had it there, and then I know that the next year for 2018 we had it. We were going to have it at Malloy College until Rockville Center, the town, heard about it. And then they wanted to police it for $10,000.
Oh my
And so we
God.
were like, we're not doing that. So we were on tour, and Shannon and Evan, the Munoz brothers, they looked into 100 venues while we were on tour.
Wow.
And we found Station Sports, which is where it's been since 2018.
Okay.
And they've been the home for us. They're a mini golf place that also provides, well, they have a mini golf course, they have a batting cage and paintball, a snack hut, their own bathrooms, and we put our own um a lot of our own infrastructure into like their parking lot area and a little bit onto the other spot that they have. But yeah, we saw what we were working with, and that year we decided we were going to build a stage. And nowadays we have two different stages, a full main stage, and then a small stage that we built, tentage on top of it, some banners and signage all over the place for people to know where everything is, even though you can literally just look around and do a 360. Um, then we have a bunch of yard games or like, air hockey, cornhole. We have a giant NES controller that's like actually two
Yeah.
people could play and play like any of like the games on a Raspberry Pi.
Nice.
And like we bring like the Smash Bros and the Wii or PS4 for people to play. We have live painting. We brought in like couches and like an entire other area just for people to like draw and stuff last year. Uh, in 2019 or 2021 or two, I mean, we actually ended up getting our liquor license. I think that was 2019, I mean, and so we ended up making our own bar. So we ended up having people run our bar.
Wow.
And then we have our own like whole merch area and you know, have people film and do photography and all that kind of stuff. But it's a whole big production, costs a whole lot of money, and we just hope that everyone has a whole lot of fun, more importantly, because I don't think anyone will ever really know how much goes into it, and we can't really expect anyone to really understand that because we're only less than a handful of people, really,
Yeah, it's wild.
and none of us thought we were going to do this. We just wanted to make a show happen, and then all of a sudden, it became too popular
Yeah.
as a like a named thing, at the house, hundreds of people just showed up all of a sudden and we were like, I think we have a business inside of our business. So now we have to go bring it somewhere else. And you'll see that like the last year was actually a $5 donation thing. It was a fundraiser for um Shannon and Evan's cousin who had cancer, but they did unfortunately pass.
Mm.
But he that was the only time we actually had a door fee, but also their cousin also did a lot of the artwork for our bands. They did like the first artwork for the first album and everything, which I have tattooed to me. But like we never charged money. But the reason I bring that up is because when we did that was when we started really thinking about like, will people like this when we start actually having to bring it somewhere else and when we actually have to charge them?
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, when people didn't have to pay, but they were kind of suggested to pay, it was kind of interesting. And we brought it to the mall, it wasn't there was no real infrastructure, so people didn't really have to pay again.
Yeah,
And people were like, "Oh, it's not at the house," so
yeah.
you kind of lose some people there. But then when we got it to the newest location, um, it felt more at a certain level where things just kind of worked out without having to worry about things slipping through the cracks, I guess you can say.
Yeah, that's wild. It's wild how big it's gotten, and I have yet to go, but maybe this is the year I finally get out there. What are you going to be doing this year? What are you adding? You got any ideas? Do you know what the next thing is going to be?
Well, I can say that uh, we're definitely doing it, and it's gonna be interesting. We definitely have some things up our sleeve, but I
Okay,
we're about to be announcing it.
all
I don't know
right.
when this is gonna come out, so I don't know why I sound a little bit hesitant. But we do have Tommy London of Sirius XM who's gonna be hosting it and promoting
Nice.
it on Sirius XM on all his radio channels. So that'll be interesting.
So to give people a better idea of what they can expect at Munostock, I want to show you this website. I want to walk through the website with you here while we got you here, Kyler.
Mhm.
This is the
Yeah.
Munostock website, and you've got some amazing pictures on here of past events. You got the mini
Yeah.
golf there. You've got live performances. A lot of local bands come out. Like, how many bands have been were at the last Munostock?
I think since we've added the second stage, we've had 15 acts being present every
Wow.
year
Okay, that's
since.
great. And everything, like you get all kinds of bands. I mean, acoustic acts, rock acts, funk, punk,
Yeah,
whatever's going
usually
on.
we try to get a little bit of everything as much as we can.
People are painting murals there. You got dogs. Dogs are welcome to the event.
Yeah,
You could bring your dogs. I mean,
bring your dogs. We've had toddlers come through.
It's good.
Got it's an all age event.
That's
Fun for all
awesome.
family.
All age event. There's the cornhole. You got cornhole going on. People are you got vendors there.
That is true.
And homemade items. It looks there's the toddler. You've got it just looks like a
It's headphone
blast.
baby.
Like it's on my bucket list. If I don't make it out to a Muno stock eventually, like I'm definitely doing something wrong. And then the other thing we want to make sure people know is that you can bring this to people's house. You do rentals, you do party rentals. As if this isn't enough, as if being in one of the leading rock and roll bands in New York and doing this festival. No, you also like run party events. If you want to rent the giant Nintendo controller,
Hmm.
that can all be done through this website as well. The link's going to be down below if you're in the tri-state area. Hit this up. This looks awesome. Like, what kind of events have you done for people?
So yeah, you can click on any of these options and there'll be more pictures. But yeah, we've
Oh,
been
crazy.
at house parties where we brought
That's
this right
awesome.
here, the
That's
giant
fun.
NES controller. We've been at other people's festivals like Statfest, or we've been at I think we've been at Alive After Five, or a couple of other. Actually, I think pretty much last year, which was 2023, we were at every local festival, it felt, besides Great South Bay, just bringing our stage. Sometimes we would be bringing our games, whether we were with our partners at Long Island Vegan Pop-Ups, their events. They have a lot of vendors. We'd be bringing our games, and sometimes bringing sound or lights, or um, sometimes we even help book an act or something. We kind of cover a lot of bases with, stock.
If you're anywhere near the area, the tri-state area, make your way over to Muno Stock when it gets announced. You're going to want to follow the Muckrakers and Kyler on their social media. I'll have all the links down below. Can we expect a new album or EP of songs from the Muckrakers anytime soon? Is that something that's on the burner for you?
Yeah. So we're in a very interesting timeline. it's kind of like it's kind of like a Zelda timeline right now because while John um is technically no longer our drummer, like our main drummer, or you know, because Malik is um when we announced that John was leaving, we didn't know we were gonna have a drummer really, or anyone who wanted to play for us or something.
Sure.
So we announced that John was going to do our last EP, like
Yeah.
a last EP with John, because we already had songs that we wrote that were pretty much finished and ready to go in the studio.
Cool.
So we do have an EP that is pretty much ready to go into the studio with that we're going to do. So one John last EP, don't know what it's going to be called, but probably be like four songs. One, two of them we've already played live a couple of times. One called Pain that was um inspired by like Demi Lovato's last um album, and I actually rushed to like get it ready from when we played with Nina Strauss. And then another called Illithid, which I was just like totally immersed in Baldur's Gate at the time, and that was kind of like a whole play on the whole tadpoles of the mind and also mental health medication. So it's like everyone's just on drugs or something, and I was kind of inadvertently making a song about sobriety, and I didn't even know about it. But there'll be some songs that people won't even know until they get to actually hear it on the record, which is an unlikely thing because normally we play them live.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And,
but you got the different
and
lineup now.
yeah, other than that, I mean, we have a lot of stuff coming up with Malik that is, well, we're going to be starting to write new music, but we're also just working on really revving the engines up and just doing a lot of stuff that, we just haven't gotten to do in a long time now. I feel just picking up the pace really.
Well, that is awesome, Kyler, and I'm super excited about it. I highly encourage you, if you have not already, to follow the Muckrakers, check out the music, check out Kyler and all of the social medias and whatnot. Make sure you follow along with the story. I have been following your story now for a few years, and I am just always impressed with what you do and how much you do and how far you've come and seem to be going. I say it all the time. Like I think the Muckrakers are one of the independent bands that have a shot at some really major success out of everybody that I'm kind of aware of. And I do believe that is coming for you. So I'm excited about it. Anything you want to tell people out there who, I don't know, you got anything to say that you haven't already said? You've said so much and you've done such a good job. It's a great interview.
Oh, I do not know. I just
Oh, are you still Twitch streaming? Yeah, ask people about that.
I've been thinking about it. I don't know if I'll ever have time to do it nearly as much as I used to. I
You're doing
definitely
so
won't.
many things. But yeah, I know back when during
Yeah.
COVID when we were all locked in, you picked up Twitch streaming and you were doing pretty good at that too.
Yeah, I mean, I did it because that was all I really could do.
Yeah.
And I feel like we had a lot of momentum. I just think that there's only so much bandwidth you can really expend. And
Yeah.
I miss kind of doing that kind of stuff. But there's maybe gonna have a moment here and there that I do it. I think we streamed once last year,
Yeah.
and a lot of people came out and it was nice, but like it's unreasonable for me to expect me to like stream sporadically and expect them to all do nicely. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I would like to have a schedule if I did it ever again.
Yeah,
You
it's a
know?
tough thing because you really it works better if you have like a set day every week or days, and if you can't commit to that, it gets difficult to keep going with it. As a person that does it, that's
Yeah.
that's the kind of the trick to it is to keep it consistent. But we'll definitely keep an
Yeah.
eye out for you whenever you go live, and we really appreciate you coming by and talking to us here at the Mr. Hartgrave channel. We usually tell the grave diggers to keep digging. Did you want to tell the grave diggers? Keep digging.
Keep digging, grave diggers.
Perfect.
He is I, and I am him, and I'm the undisputed trend in that Taven. And this dork behind the camera, some Melvin told me to say, grave diggers keep on digging. Whatever that means.
I am AEW wrestler and Ring of Honor tag champ, Mike Bennett. And remember, grave diggers keep digging, but not the monster truck. Even though my son really likes that monster truck, I kind of like Son of a Digger and Zombie. I'm going off on a tangent about monster truck because my son really loves monster truck, but we're talking about the YouTube channel. So make sure, grave diggers, keep on digging, baby.
So this is Mark doing one happy private party, saying what up to the grave diggers, and keep doing your thing, bro.
All right, like, subscribe, and watch another video, or be cursed. If you're cursed, that means the grave diggers will keep digging your graves. So you probably want to do it.